What do you think keeps people single that they don't notice?
Some of the most common dating advice that people are paying for right now is to just date people you wouldn't normally date. So when you go on dating apps, you're also dealing with a bunch of people who are looking through a bunch of people, right? And so it dehumanizes an experience that's not really how you would normally go about evaluating people. And this is what I mean about friendship. I have a friend, I meet them however I meet them. As we do things together, I'm like, you know what? I like the way you think. I like the way you move. I like the way that you do stuff. It's through these shared experiences that we get to know our kind of system, the way that we affect each other. You don't have to be perfect to be in love and have a good relationship. In fact, you don't even have to be exactly the same. You can have a lot of things that are not the same.
I think that's the problem with dating apps, you know?
Yeah.
I saw this thing on Twitter yesterday. It was really bizarre. So these two people, they met on a dating app, and before they planned their first date, she asked the guy if he didn't mind filling out a questionnaire that she had set up.
That's dope.
How many questions are
But
we talking
it was
about?
I
That's
think
what we do.
26 questions. She created this questionnaire herself. It started off pretty generic questions.
What's your favorite color?
You know, regular,
What's your
right?
size?
Then it kind of, and then it got a little weird.
Told
Like
you.
it was a toilet paper question. Do you think that the toilet paper goes like under, or do you
Over.
roll it, or over?
No, yeah.
And then there was like a question about like if you had a child, like how would you handle it? Just real personal questions.
Oh, wow.
And
I think that's dope.
after going through the questions, he was just like, yeah, absolutely not. Like, I'm not answering this because it's like you're going to determine whether we go out or not based on how I answer these questions. And one, I understood his need to not want to do it because it's just like, well, we can go out and get to know each other like regular human beings instead of me like having to fill out what kind of seems like a test before you decide like, okay, yeah, pass. They didn't pass my test, so I'm just gonna be like real cut with it and
Yeah.
just like, okay, well, I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to continue to try to get to know you. So honestly, I thought that the questionnaire was a little bit too much.
Yeah.
But I just think that dating apps specifically, that's what's wrong with it. Like we're trying to find people too much like ourselves, and that's probably not always going to be the best thing to do.
I have a question about that. So, from my perspective, that seems like a very
Efficient?
effective and efficient way to like weed out somebody who you won't vibe with. And I'm only saying that if those questions are presented in a way that they are like deal breakers for you, or that they speak to your like fundamental principles. Because let's say he was like, "Nah, if my kid is I can't mess with it." She might have a kid, you know, and that may, or sibling or something, you know, so that may be a fundamental thing that she can't rock with. That's why I think it's kind of efficient. You know, you don't waste a date, you don't waste no money, you don't waste no time, you don't waste your lipstick, your foundation, your dress, your outfit, whatever, you know. So it's like, why not?
It's I get the point, you know, but I don't know, it's just
aggressive.
something, yeah, it's aggressive, it's something not like too genuine about it. It's just real cut and dry to me. Like I'd like the experience of getting to know somebody, even if it's a wasted date. Like if we would have went on one date and I would have got to know, okay, well, this is how you feel about this is how you feel about that, I probably would rather that. Like I understand like it is a time saver, it's like energy saver, but I don't know, I just feel like it was just
I
cut.
feel like we're living in an age where everybody, it's like you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. Okay.
Absolutely.
When I say that in reference to, I want to compare back in the day, and even they say it today, but back in the day, it was heavy. You don't talk about religion, you don't talk about politics, right? And there's a lot of people, and in fact, I used to date a girl back in the day, and her family split up once her father was Catholic and her mother was Catholic, and then her mother wanted to become Jehovah's Witness, and she then sought this out. They split up, but they lived in the same house, but they fought for years. I don't know where they're at today, but I feel like, and this is to avoid certain things like that, right? Because back in the day, and I wasn't there, so I'm only, projecting. But back in the day, there were certain codes about things that we don't talk about, and if you even thought different, you just kept it to yourself. But now everybody's becoming open-minded, and I want to say open-minded, but outspoken, and everybody wants to be able to express their opinion, and they have that right to. The problem is when you're dating and you're expressing your opinion, you can start to realize who is on the opposite side of the fence from you. And it could be a waste of time depending if it is something that is one of your fundamental principles or your morals or whatever the case may be. So I find it where we're at a point where the direct approach is being used, but it still has to be, there's some, like, we have to get accustomed to doing it.
Yeah.
So I love it. Like I said before here at 8 at the Table, we have monthly reports in my relationship. You know what I'm saying? What didn't you like? What was the worst thing that happened?
Written reports?
Yeah, written reports.
Wow, that's formal.
Yeah. And
Where your worksheet at?
yeah, that's what.
Get it out.
Yeah, she
Monthly
prints it out.
assignment.
Yeah. But I think that's
Progress
healthy
report.
though. And
cool, though.
and after that we unpack each one. Whether it was good or whether it's bad, you get good feedback and then you get the constructional feedback as well. But I think that is what we need to do in this world going forward, because everybody wants to have their own opinion. Everybody wants to voice their own opinion. So we need to know what is a conflict and what isn't. And if I can do that on the first date by giving you a worksheet or whatever the case may be, I'm with it.
I
What do
mean,
you, in your professional?
I mean, it's tough because this is what I mean about dehumanizing the process, right? Like, are you excited to go on this date that you're sending this person 26 questions to answer before you go on it? Because I know if I was really excited about a person, 26 questions are not. Like, I'm going on a date. Like, I think that's really sort of the negotiation for me, is that if you think you know yourself well enough to predict where you will be in a relationship, fine, ask 26 questions, right? But the truth of the matter is, like, we grow in relationship. We change in relationship. So where I am now, even what I now, I might think I know exactly what it is. And 6 months from now, I'm going to have a new conversation. Same partner. You know what I mean? And that I think is about the reality that, like, a lot of us, because we're not talking about this, even with our parents, even with our friends, we have defensive opinions, but we don't have thoughtful opinions, right? So I know what I don't want, but I don't have a dream of what I do want, right? And so a lot of times I'll tell people, even when they're married already and stuff like that, like, there's a dream within this conflict. Let's talk about the dream. Let's not talk about who did what and the facts of what or whatever. It's like, let's talk about what we're trying to get to. Why is this such a big deal to both of us, right?
Yeah.
My dream, when I say, what would you do if you had a gay son, is that my child feels seen and heard and respected by me. That's really important to me, right? That feels different than interrogating somebody about how they're going to treat your gay son, right? Like, and that's what I mean. It's safety. It's you being open to the process.
Yeah.
That part of being single, I think, is getting corrupted by fear, and a lot of people trying to make money off of people who are scared and who are single and who really want to just kind of sell the idea that you need something else. You don't have enough already. If you just buy this concept, if you just do this thing, then you'll never get hurt again. You'll always find your soulmate. But the truth is if you date, you're probably gonna date a lot of people, and if you don't, you're probably gonna be with somebody you're not that happy with.
Can I ask you this? Are there any like trends that from your professional work, trends with like dating and people in long-term relationships or marriages or whatever that may, how do I say this? They may be happening now, but maybe 20 years ago in your field it wasn't a thing, but now it is, and it's a big thing. Do you know any trends surrounding that?
Well, for one thing, the work that I do, body-based work, is kind of new. Like, not a lot of therapists actually did it years ago. It was very much like, sit down, just talk, like, whatever you want to do it. The idea that bodies regulate each other, right?
No. I'm saying like issues with
Issues with the couple.
yeah,
Or with
yeah.
individuals or single folks.
Yeah.
One of the things that I see is that the what do they call it? Despair and compare thing is real. That's when you're scrolling and you compare yourself to people on your news feed and you start to feel worse and worse and worse the further down your news feed you go. That's a studied phenomenon that has been affecting people, and depression has been going up. also suicidality and self-harm has been going up amongst Black folks, which is hard for parents and partners to kind of understand and empathize with. And that's a real thing that you see getting depicted in media, that you see getting depicted, you know, in a lot of sort of fictional stories too, where you can see there's a disconnect between people using drugs, for example, like pills that are made for anxiety, depression, whatever, and actually sort of self-medicating because their parents are just like, that's not real, right? And I think a lot of us in this generation believe in God, but do not actually subscribe to religion.
Yeah.
So that changes the conversation amongst couples and relationships and dating to one where it's not so important whether I'm going to heaven or hell, or whether my church approves, or whether people in my community are saying this is an anointed, equally yoked match, you know, like, but that I'm happy. And I think that conservatism going away has left us without like a template for what's supposed to happen or how you're supposed to parent even. You know, like a lot of people are asking questions about not what's normal, but what's healthy.
Gotcha.
And I think that's actually a really good trend, even though it's causing a lot of chaos. I think it's a good conversation.
All it takes is one person who finds it unhealthy to tell another person that they're unhealthy and they need therapy.
Right, and we're not
But,
using it as a
yeah,
label, right? I think
yeah,
that's
yeah.
the important part. Is that now I think the hard part is that labeling is not solving.
Yeah.
Like I could tell you you're a narcissist, and we still got issues, right? Like it don't matter if I know what you are. It just matters that I know how to actually live.
You know what I also think is a big issue right now? I also think the big issue is that, like, and I don't know, maybe this is something that I could possibly change my mind, but as of right now, I've come to the conclusion, I was like, I'm so tired, and I think it's so, like, foul to tell people, just find whoever works for you, right? Because I realize that we can go ahead and be whatever idea of us that we want to be, and that does not mean that there is somebody out there for that person. And that's what people really need to understand. And that's
Is that what they need to understand? That's a very rough lesson for people to have to understand.
But it's like, because I could think, right? I could think if I'm this way and that way and this way, and I add all these things to the pot, and then I serve this dish to everybody in the world that one person is gonna like it. First of all, you're already, the odds are against you. Second of all, there is a possibility that nobody's gonna like that. So this is where we're flirting with what's normal versus what's healthy. Because you do need some normality, because there's a reason why some things are normal, right?
Sure.
There's a blueprint that we can never, ever dismiss or discard. And if we look at it, the blueprint is going to hold true throughout history and throughout now. You know what one of the blueprints is? Value. And I'm saying value because I don't want to put currency in it, because at one point currency didn't exist, or what didn't exist in the same way that we think it does now. So now when you had some type of royalty or currency or value in your community or village, that is a blueprint that has worked forever. So we do know that that is something that is in your favor that has been proven to work. But now when we go into the whole ideology of you could be whatever you want, there's somebody out there for you. Just get whoever wants you. And it's like, yeah, but you're kind of putting your back against the wall with unknown odds, and realistically could lead to depression. It could lead to a lot of things if you're not being chosen, being that person. You have to like be so careful with how you say everything. I'm saying I just can't.
There's nothing wrong with being thoughtful with your words.
No, I don't mean that. And I don't want to disregard that,
Go
but I'm like,
ham as a society.
there's so many words that we just add our own feelings to it, and then we add these stigmas to these words and then run with the feeling of what the stigma is for the word. But really the word has really no feelings or stigmas to it unless society has attached it and you've bought into it.
Can we get
How
an
many times have I
example of
said
this
this?
word?
Well, I mean, I've been saying, I
That's
don't,
all words.
yeah,
Right.
I don't like
mean,
to
be
argue.
fair, that's
yeah.
literally how words work. You know,
Not,
that's
but
how
that's-
people assign meanings to words.
Well, meanings and stigmas are different, right?
Sometimes.
Like black.
But that's what I mean. Look,
You know what I'm saying? Black has a negative stigma.
if you want to live in a society, here's the two choices you're actually putting up.
Gotcha.
Is that in one society, people think about the other people who live in that society and try to say stuff with them in mind. In the other society, they don't. That's it.
It's
And which
consideration.
one would you rather live in? I'd rather live in the one where at least people try, only because I know as a black woman what it's like for people to try, and it still hurts. You know what I mean? It's still hard with people trying their best.
I'd rather them not try. Because if you don't try, I'm going to take it for what it is rather than what I want to deem it to be or how it can make me feel. Like, and I don't take, and that's the thing, I'm not taking words personal. You know, there's a lot of people that say a lot of things in these comments. I don't lose sleep over a single comment. You know what I'm saying? Or whatever words they saying. Or whatever thing, you know what I'm saying? So I cannot put, like, if you say a negative word that means negative things, then I'm gonna treat it as a negative word. But if you say a word that just has a generic meaning, I'm not adding anything to it. You know, like, I'm just gonna use this word for an example, and I don't want to go off.
Submission?
Submissive. Like, submissive has become a negative connotation, or has gained a negative connotation, or potentially.
But let me tell you a secret. You're just learning that women have always had a negative connotation to men saying that they'd prefer for them to be submissive. But that's what social media is doing, right? We just making things
Bringing things to the
brings out
forefront.
to the
like it.
forefront.
Yeah, but
you know what
but
I
I don't think
mean?
there's anything negative about that.
But
word.
that's the thing, and that's the problem, because then we have, this is the problem. How you feel about a word does not mean what the word means. Now we have women who think submission is a bad thing. We have women that love submission. So now what happens for the guy? He's trying to decipher what the submission means to each different girl, and it's hard to
You're
do
doing
that.
too much work already, right?
We all got Google.
But not
But yeah,
even.
Google
but not
doesn't
even
say
that.
negative though. You
But
feel
not even
me?
that.
Which is why I say
the
it's not
goal is-
negative.
The goal isn't for you to already know how to be with every single person before you meet them, right? The goal is to just meet people, right? And as you get to know them, you will learn what
you'll
they're
figure it
offended
out
by,
along the way.
what they're not
Yeah.
offended by. If you're on a date and you're going out and you're saying submission and she's like, no problem, right? And then you're going out with another person, they're like, the last dude who said that to me whooped my ass. Different people, right? And so that's why empathy for all of us, it has this effect on our body of really kind of calming us down. And so even though it seems like a good idea to be very idea based, we need stories, we need humans, we need people,
Yeah.
or else we try to avoid these things like we're gonna win or lose, when it's like, if you can actually try to sit with the idea that people believe the things that they do for a reason, and that most people have good reasons, that's enough.
Well, that's the thing, and I believe that no one is really doing that when they're putting these stigmas on words. They believe everybody has ill intent, you know, or they're brainwashed, or they're this, or they're that, and that's the problem. Is we're only putting these negative connotations on people and what they're saying from the immediate introduction, right? Because of what we have bought into and subscribed with what the world that we live in may deem it as.
But you understand why a stigma would come with a word like submission, though, right?
Yeah, no, I understand, but I also understand why it doesn't. So now,
But we
Yeah.
don't have to jump over to the debate side. You see what you did there?
no, I was just
but what
including
what
both perspectives.
And I get the, but this is the first perspective, right? That it has to be a debate. The other perspective is that we might actually have two different experiences with submission. With the actual thing, submission, right? It's an actual thing that people will have lived through. Some people be like, ooh, girl, that turns me on. Because the last time I submitted, I loved it, right? Now, some people, that is not their experience, right? To be able to kind of have the humility to say, I don't always need to have an opinion on something that ain't my experience. That's maturity, right? And I think that a lot of people, they're young and they're very popular on social media. Like, the most popular type of TikTok is a mental health TikTok, which is so weird to me right now, that it's like, if someone's like, I have ADHD and this is what it's like that's the most popular type of content.
Over here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean,
Yeah.
what is popular here is also very popular other places.
Nah, like there's a whole study on that, especially TikTok. Like in Japan, the most popular things is like science and inventative, not reels, was it TikToks? Like videos.
Like of the
Yeah,
tech
they
stuff.
control the algorithms, and actually here we have a very delegated algorithm for stuff like mental health, for stuff like chaotic. Well, I'm saying chaotic in my own, but you know, like men versus women type of things. The algorithm changes per region, which is something to take note of as well. But I do agree. But my thing is, I want to take it a step further, because I want to say I do align with what you're saying, having the compassion and empathy, and basically the awareness of what a word can mean to somebody. But nobody's off the hook. So when I say that, I mean the person that's using the word is not off the hook, as well as the person who's taking it to make it deem a certain way, because of their own experience. Which, saying that, I'm not saying that their experience is invalid, but I'm saying that that does not necessarily mean that for that. Now, certain words, like the R word, that is negative. You know what I'm saying? That is something that we are all. The biggest thing that I'm trying to do when I'm saying all of this about etymology is I'm trying to limit the miscommunication. And when you limit the miscommunication, the only way that I personally could find to be a solution of limiting miscommunication is not always having empathy, because some situations don't need empathy with certain words. So the best way is to take the words for as they mean. You know what I'm saying? Or how they were derived to mean. What were they supposed to mean? That's why I think we all need to sit down with a dictionary and start understanding what certain words mean and what was the purpose and the intent for these words. Because now, in the last 20 to 30 years, we done added so many different things to so many different words, where if I could say this to you, it could be good. I could say it to her, it could be bad. And depending on her response to me, it could cause an argument, which is all negative, right? And for
I
you,
can tell you don't like to argue.
I don't like.
Yeah, that you don't really like conflict.
No, the thing is, it's
Like,
not.
not that you don't argue, but like that your thought process on dating
Yeah.
sounds like it's like, how can we not have a
I'm a preventative
conflict
person.
before
Yeah,
it
yeah.
even happens? And it's like,
Yeah, but if it
this
does,
is a lot of eventualities that we talking about here.
but if it does happen,
Not real life.
the problem, yeah, the problem,
Not yet.
the problem is I love a conflict. No. So I'm like, yo,
So you're predicting it,
before
huh?
before I get myself there, let's just pull the plug. Like,
Okay.
you know,
It's a safety plan for you. You got to predict the conflicts because you're going to have some anyway.
yeah, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, but here's the thing. We also, I do agree, we need to be respectful for what certain things mean to certain people. And I just think that we have not learned how to speak to each other at this point in the same in the same tongue. You know what I'm saying? We know how to speak to each other, but not with the same intentions, not with the same words, not with the same meanings of these words, which is causing the miscommunication, which is causing the fights. And you know, believe it or not, one situation can change a whole person's life.
Sure.
A lot of arguments, I don't know the stat, but I'm assuming a lot of arguments in this country specifically have probably turned into a assault case. And some of this could have started with just a simple misunderstanding on how the communication has even, you know, was presented.
And in my work, it's about looking beyond what people are saying and looking at what's behind the way they say it, right? Like, if somebody's really triggered by you saying the word submission, right, there's a whole different body behind the things that they're about to say than a person who just isn't. And with somebody, when we feel safe with each other, we can talk, we can connect, we can be creative, we can brainstorm. When we feel threatened, we go into a different headspace, and it's not social. It's sort of necessarily not social. And you'll even notice it if you're a little stressed. Like, if you are doing something at work and you're really focused on it and somebody comes to talk to you, your personality's not even the same as if you had nothing. You'd be like, what? Huh? Like, and it's like, that's not you, but that is how you are when there's something that you're sort of, there's a bigger goal here than the social part. And I'm trying to protect that. You're threatening that right now.
Yeah.
And a lot of times when you see people who are really judgmental, the judgment is a way of feeling safer. So usually, like, mentally, we don't judge people a lot if we feel safe. We're like, okay, why are you doing that? That seems interesting, whatever. If we're judging a lot, we tend to feel unsafe in something that's happening, right? So I, even in myself, I'm like, damn, if I'm judging people, what's threatening me that's making me kind of do this to everybody surrounding me? Like, what is it that's making me uncomfortable? And 9 times out of 10, it's something that I've sat with but not totally figured out, or, you know, I don't know how I feel about it. And so they're bringing it up. It's not resolved in me. And I'm the type of person who likes to have things figured out. You know what I mean? So I'd be like, say words. Defend yourself. You know what I mean? But it's like, well, you can't trust what I'm saying in that state. That's not my safe answer. That's my self-protective answer. Yeah. And if we were going to talk about why people stay single, dating in that state rather than dating in safety is going to guarantee you're moving towards disconnect and not connection, right?
You deserve another award. You know, I just want to say that was